Okay, today is July 19th, 2013, and we're sitting with Lois Norman. So if you could just go ahead and start with where
Okay, well, where I started from was where my memories began were at the homestead, but I was born in Jasper, Missouri.
Okay.
And my folks wanted to come and homestead.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother's health wasn't very good. It seemed like her lungs weren't very strong or something. But anyway, this part of the country was recommended, and they came to Denver first. But they met people there that were interested in homesteading, and so they decided they would homestead too. So let's see. The people that they ran into, their names were Albers, Amos and Clara Albers. And what is a little different about that is that eventually my older sister married an Albers boy, one of their sons.
Wow.
So their friendship lasted lifelong.
Yeah.
You know.
How deep.
Probably things I got down. Well, anyway, we homesteaded near Juniper Springs. Do you know where that is?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it's not too awfully far from Maybell. And they at that time, there's nothing there now. They've removed everything, and the springs are still running. They run down the side of the hill, kind of in a sheet, and into the river, and they're still warm. So they're warm springs. But anyway, my folks lived on up from there. But that was the town where they got their mail and their groceries.
Right.
And so we lived at the homestead till anyway I had a few memories at the homestead. I've got something here I can't see. Oh yes. Once while we lived at the homestead, like I said, we were quite small. Mother had to go down to Juniper Springs to get groceries or whatever, and all we had was horses for transportation, So she had ridden her horse down there, and it was getting close to time for her to get home, and so we just begged Dad to let us, Maxine and I, get on the horse and go down to meet her. Well, he relented. My dad relented easier than my mother did. But he told us, now don't run the horse. And I'm sorry to say, we hadn't gotten too far out of sight that we decided we needed to run him a little bit. But he wasn't going to run. Of course, we were so short-legged, he probably wondered what was going up there at the top of the saddle. But we just fixed him, and I'm sure it hurt him terribly. But finally, we were persistent enough, and I guess he thought, well, okay. So he started to run, and we immediately fell off.
Oh, no.
And, of course, right in the snow, we weren't hurt at all. But we were right close to his heels, so we just kind of slid off. And but he was so tame, and he just stood there. And so we tried to get back on. There was no way we could get back on. We were just too small. We couldn't reach anything to even pull ourselves up. So we walked with him down to a neighbor's home. I'm not sure he was living there then, but anyway, it was the Nelson place. And it was a place where we could kind of get in shelter. We couldn't get inside, but it had a covered porch. So we just took the horse up to that covered porch, and we stood there and knew that Mother would be home, or would be coming in just a little bit.
Right.
Well, it just got later and later, and the coyotes began howling, and we wished we were anywhere but there. But anyway, she did come there, and she could hardly believe her eyes. The reason she was late is because she decided to go get some eggs from a neighbor, which was off of the road and up the other direction, and that delayed her quite a little bit, you know. But anyway, I think Daddy was very popular that evening, but Mother got us home, put our feet in hot water, and she made sure that we got warmed up in a hurry and everything, and we never had any problems about it at all. You know, we were kind of used to having things a little bit rugged, I guess I should say. Let's see. When we got to school age, we could stay with it because there wasn't a school nearby, and so we moved to the Dalby place, about 5 miles from Maybelle, and this old man became a lifelong friend, Mr. Dalby. He was just so special to us from the time we met him till he died. And he came, this is just kind of an aside, but when he got real sick, and he was living in Maybelle then, and when he got real sick, he came to our place, and he stayed there until Mother had to take him to the hospital, you know. And bless his heart, it was the only family he had, he thought, you know. So, he was a dear person. But when we were living at the Dalby's place, my baby brother was born, Ben Richard Wicker, named after my dad. And he was something pretty special. Oh, we thought, of course. I guess the next thing, and when we moved away from the Maybelle community, we moved to the Antelope community. There was the Antelope schools, what they called it. I suppose at one time there's been a lot of antelope up there, and so we lived on Williams Place and then the Davis Place, but that doesn't make any difference. But we had good sledding and skiing up there, which we had fun. We weren't good skiers, never probably were, but we just had those skis that just had the strap over, you know, and then you get ice under your shoes, between your shoes and the ski, and your feet would, you know, you didn't know whether it's going to slip off on this side or on that side. But we had a real steep hill that we'd go down, and we spent lots of time wallowing around in the snow anyway, if nothing else. And we had Dad fix us a long sled where the three of us could get on it, my sister and brother.
How fun.
And we could just really zoom down there. It was just the bank of a gulch is what it was. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And then when we moved up to the Davis Place, then away from that place where there's such good skiing. Of course, there was still skiing at Davis Place. There wasn't any place out there because they had so much snow. And but we had a phone, and that was something we had never had, was a telephone. And you had to ring, you know, the old crank ones.
Right.
Yeah. And our Aunt Irene, lived, well, it was quite a lot of ways, but we could call her on that old country line, and she was so dear because she just, you know, she'd talk to us just like it was important, you know. So we were free to call Aunt Irene. Of course, she was just a young person too at that time. Yeah. Let's see. When my sister got ready for high school, well, there wasn't any high school out there. And there had, in some of the schools, they had maybe a year or maybe two, but not the school that we were going to. But so we needed to come to town. So Mother and we girls came to town, and we got some kind of a place that was, well, anyway, we got us a place to live. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't long till Dad was all through with the ranch. He decided he could sell his herd of cattle. He had registered cattle, and getting a pretty good start. But he decided he could give that up and just sell them and come to town and be with his family. Because, you know, there would be quite a few years, because when my sister and I got out of high school, my brother was right there behind us, you know. Of course, he was several years behind, but it had only been a couple of years, so he was right in high school, too. So they'd have had to have gone back anyway. And let's see. Oh, yeah. Then Dad got a job with a building contractor, and he discovered that he loved carpentry. He was good at it. And that became his vocation. I thought I said vacation. Yeah, that became his vocation. He some of the buildings in Craig that the theater building down there, our theater.
West Theater, is that what it's
It's called the West Theater. Yeah. I think it was called Victory Theater to begin with.
Okay.
But I'm not sure of that, so don't put that down. But I think it was. Anyway, the West Theater. He and another fellow, but Mr. Cheney, I think his name was. But anyway, after we got kind of settled and decided we were going to go to attend the Christian church, we visited some of the churches, and we decided that was kind of... My folks had been something else back in Missouri. It wasn't Christian or congregational. No, it wasn't Baptist. It was something else. And maybe it was just a community church. I don't know. But anyway, we visited some churches, and we decided that the folks kind of let us decide that we wanted to go to Christian church. A lot of our friends went there, and they had Christian Endeavor, which they call CYC anymore, but it's Christian Youth something or other now. That was Christian Endeavor at that time. And so we began to go to church there, and in fact that's where Gail's family went.
Okay.
So, it's kind of got acquainted with Gail, and then in the youth group and everything, So
you met each other when you were younger then, when you were...
Pardon?
Did you meet each other when you were younger and still in school, or...?
Well, no. I knew who he was before he got away from school. I knew that because his younger brother was in my class.
I see.
So I knew who he was, but I didn't have my eye on him necessarily then.
Right.
But, it wasn't very long. Those years seem long to you when they're going on, but things happen pretty fast.
Yes, they do. Do you mind if we go back a little? So,
yes.
You went to school in Maybelle, correct? That was your first
school in
experience?
Maybelle.
What was that like for you?
In Maybelle? Well, I loved it.
Yeah?
I loved it. We had good teachers. We had a young teacher, Miss Clark, and then she got married. But and then Mrs. Herzog, and the Herzogs are still in Maybelle.
Yeah.
We went to Paul Herzog's. What is this? I don't know how old he was the other day. So we still kind of know those people down there, but not too many of them.
And then, so after Maybell, you came to Craig for high school, or?
Well, after Maybell, we went first up to the country school.
Oh, the country
Yeah.
school.
Yeah,
What was that like?
Well, oh, wonderful. The Antelope School, is what
Uh-huh.
we called that. And, yeah, of course, I loved school, no matter where it was.
Right.
But that was nice because there weren't that many kids,
Okay.
and you got a lot of attention from the teacher if you needed it,
Right.
and things were more relaxed. I suppose if the teacher wanted to let you out a little early for recess, she would have, and so forth, and we had this great teachers. Of course, I never had a bad teacher, so
Yeah.
I don't think.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it really is. So we just love school if you've got good teachers and
Mhm.
good friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how did Craig then compare to those other schools?
Oh, it was fine. It was different because we felt kind of overwhelmed with so many children,
Right.
or children. We didn't think of them as children, but so many classmates,
Mhm.
Right.
and where you moved from one class to another.
Mhm.
Where you went upstairs or the downstairs,
Okay.
well, some of the old buildings aren't here now.
Right.
But I don't know what they had done to me to get me not to like school. I really did like school.
Me too. Yeah.
And it just seemed like I always really had pretty good teachers. We had a real strict teacher that people had me afraid of before I ever had her.
Uh-huh.
But no, she was great.
Okay.
Her name was Mrs. Little.
Oh.
That's funny.
Yeah. But she didn't put up with any nonsense, but I wasn't there for nonsense.
Mhm.
I always had fun and everything, but when it was school, I think my mother talked for a little bit,
Mm.
and I think she'd have just twisted my ears if I had given the teacher much trouble.
Right.
And,
That's excellent.
so anyway, our family settled in Craig then, and Dad found out he could carpenter, and he loved it, and he decided that that's what he would do, and he wouldn't stay at the farm or anything.
Right. That was good, because then he could be with you
Yeah,
and the family.
and that's the way Dad was.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be away from his
Of
family.
course.
He never did like to have to go away to work,
Right.
which people do, and I'm sure he did a time or two have to,
Mhm.
but ordinarily he was with his family. And then I didn't tell you about meeting Gail, did I?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we both went to the same church.
Right.
And they had he had gotten out of school because he was working then, probably the first year he was out, I'm not sure.
Right.
But the Normans were always real interested in the church and helpful and everything. But anyway, they invited our youth group down there to have a picnic, and we had the campfire, and then to have our meeting,
Right.
And so we'd gotten down there, and we were kind of sitting around the campfire, and you know what? I think my mind must have wandered because I can't remember. But anyway, I saw Gail there, and I knew that was their son. I knew that was Gail, and he pretty soon he just got up and walked over and sat down by me. We were sitting on the ground around the campfire. Came and sat down by me. I was very sad. But I guess I didn't say anything to the folks, of course they knew him, but I don't think I said anything to him, and it wasn't too many days till I had come home from somewhere, and Mother said, well, so I bet you couldn't guess who was here to see you. And I thought a minute, and I said, Gail Norman? And it really shocked her. She didn't know I even would have had any idea. And of course, that was just a guess, but because I had been going with somebody else. But anyway, let's see. Then we Oh, yeah, we started dating, and then my family moved to Denver,
Oh, no.
where Dad had work.
Were you still in school at this time, or was
No,
this
no.
was after?
That was, yeah, because Mother wasn't going to pull us girls out of the school anyway.
Mm.
But Dad pretty much had work around. Sometimes he was gone,
Uh-huh.
but he pretty much had work around the Craig area.
Okay.
Oh, he worked in Eagle and a few places.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, pretty much around Craig. But, when we got in Denver, well, my sister was already there because she went there to go to business school, you know. And in fact, that's what I did. I decided I wanted to be a secretary. But he came in one time to see me, and of course that was during the war, and it seemed like all the boys I knew were going to the war, and so we decided to get married, don't you know, because he was going to have to leave.
So he was drafted?
Yeah, I'm sure he was drafted. I'm pretty sure he waited till he was drafted.
Okay.
I believe. I would hate to say that and not be right. But anyway, we decided to get married, and we knew we didn't have much time before he would be called. And so our parents, his parents and my parents, they just went to work, and they gave us the nicest wedding.
Oh, that's so
It was,
sweet.
and a formal wedding and everything. And they kind of had to put it all together, and things weren't easy to find. We had one difficult time trying to find me a bridal gown.
Oh, really?
And
This was in Denver or here in Craig?
well, here in Craig.
It was here in Craig.
And but there was they had some nice shops here, and they also had one in Hayden, which where I finally found the one that I did find. And it was just, it really wasn't a wedding gown, I guess, but it was white. It was pretty and it very nice. And one my neighbor, her daughter had gotten married probably 5 years ahead of me or something like that. But they had her wedding veil, and she said, "Would you wanna wear the wedding veil?"
Yeah.
And it was just as nice, looked just as pretty and white as my gown did. And I thought that was so kind of her.
Yeah.
So I wore the wedding veil and got it back to her. And she was just a neighbor. And we just always went to the First Christian Church, which is the center of Craig, as you probably know. And I think I said that already. Let's see. We didn't have very many days together actually before Gail had to leave, and then he was sent overseas. And let's see. I don't know. I just got down here when finally his tour of duty ended. It seemed like it was a long time, but no, it can't have been. But it was a long time for us, and for any of the others that had him. But anyway, he came home and he was fine, and we lived happily ever after.
No.
We have 4 children, and we've got great in-laws, got lots of grandchildren. I don't know, I think there's a dozen or so. And got a few great grands too, but yeah, we get started on the great grandchildren. Let's see. So I've got a little thing. Oh yeah, I just said that I worked as a secretary and bookkeeper for the years after my schooling and until after Gail came home from the service. Because I worked, of course, while he was gone. It gave me something to do, and I needed to anyway.
Right.
I don't know that I have any other comments down.
No problem.
You mentioned your neighbor, giving you the veil for
Yeah.
your wedding and
Uh-huh.
everything. Is that how Craig was back then? Just everyone knew
yeah.
each other, and so can you tell us what it was like, when you first came to Craig, and what were the
Well, of
people
course, I was kind of overwhelmed when I first came to Craig because I the biggest place was Maybelle, and I was only there for a while. We usually lived outside of Maybelle.
Right.
And so Craig seemed big, and of
Mhm.
course it just wasn't anything like it is now.
Right.
We had the main streets, Victory Way and Victory Way and what's the other one?
13?
Yampa?
Yampa. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Victory Way and Yampa were the main ones, and that's of course where most of the businesses were,
Mhm.
on those two streets.
Right.
And it wasn't spread out, like it's spread out so far east.
Mhm.
I wish I'd have given this a little thought, but do you know where the Christian church is?
I think
West, that it's that big white church on the south, on the south side of the street.
I think we've seen that.
And you know where it is. Well, anyway, that was really kind of in the country. The people that the church bought it from had their fields and stuff out there,
Mhm.
and same way on the other side. In fact, even further back toward Craig. So Craig didn't sprawl out like it does now. It went kind of up, and this was at pretty much the end of town where that filling station is to the north,
Mhm.
up there. That was, it's really getting out of town.
Yeah.
But even though it was smaller than it is now, it still seemed so large when you came.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It seems pretty large.
And what were the people like? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. I think I've always liked people, and so I think I can't hardly think of anybody that I didn't like. And, I'm sure there were some troublemakers. Probably were. But right at the moment, I can't think of any that I was acquainted with.
Right.
Some people you like a lot better than others.
Mhm.
You have your special friends. But I think Craig's always been kind of a friendly town. I've heard different, but it may be. I think the person. Well, I was kind of shy, sort of. But if a person wasn't kind of friendly themselves, they probably, there's some people that can't seem to make the first move,
Mhm.
But lots of times that's just kind of born and bred in you. You just have a certain personality, and it's hard for you to be very outgoing.
Mhm.
But I just thought they were wonderful people. And I had such good classmates. I had such good teachers, and some of those just became such good friends.
Mhm.
And a lot of them, I'm getting right up there. A lot of them are still around.
Mhm.
Of course, a lot of them aren't. But,
You mentioned you went into being a secretary. Where did you work?
well, at first I worked at courthouse.
Oh, okay.
I think my first actual secretarial job was in the courthouse.
And what was that like for you, working at a courthouse as a secretary?
I liked it.
Mhm.
I had a real good boss, and the other girl, she worked in it had some connection with the OPA office is what I worked in, but anyway, we were pretty much the same age. She was a little bit older than me, but we were pretty much the same age, and so that made it nice because there was someone around just about my age. And
Right.
I don't know what we did for fun. It seemed like we always had fun. We really did. You know, if you've got good friends, and even if it doesn't have to be a lot of stuff to do, you can enjoy yourself with your friends.
Right.
Do you remember any going-ons in the courthouse that were...
Going-ons in the courthouse? Dear me. I just kind of remember John and his going out and surveying, and my boss, and then they did finally get another Harriet Rowe worked in the worked there for a while. She wasn't right in the same office with me.
And then you also mentioned bookkeeping. Did you also do that in the courthouse, or was that somewhere else?
Well, yeah, right. First I didn't in the courthouse. I just was did the typing and filing and stuff like that. But yeah, then it kind of became necessary because one time we went in business ourselves, and it was kind of nice. Didn't have to hire a bookkeeper.
Yeah, you already done that. So what did you do after working as a secretary at the courthouse?
Well, got married. So there were several years that it didn't work because I had little kids. We had 4 children, and so I didn't work, and I don't know, things got a little bit tight, I guess, and I thought maybe I ought to go to work to make a little bit for us. And oh my gosh, all this is so long ago.
Yeah. Oh.
Did you get it? What? I must have. I don't know where I am.
That was fast.
What I'm doing. Oh, now what was I saying?
Just going through where you worked.
Oh, yeah, well.
You mentioned the business that you did.
Yeah, business started.
Yeah, we were in the machinery business.
You and Gail?
Yeah, and our son-in-law and daughter, and it was called Norman and Haskins, and it was a terrible time to go. It truly was a terrible time because agricultural products were zilch about, and so the farmers were having quite a struggle. And if they had an old John Deere and it was still working, they'd better hang on to it, And we sold Alice Chalmers and Crustbusters. Like I said, our son-in-law and daughter were in business with us. And they were just, their family was just getting started. So, but I don't regret that experience, even though it really didn't turn out so good. I mean, materially, but we got to know a lot of the farmers and people around in the area, and it was pleasant. We never had any difficulties with people. Some people don't like people, I guess. Don't like to work with them and so forth. But Gail, my husband, he's a very friendly person. He was a mechanic. He's a good mechanic. He doesn't do it anymore. He says, what, you get old.
More
If you stay alive, you're going to get old.
year?
So now our lives are pretty, I guess uneventful. We still go to church regularly and Sunday school, and I go to the women's group meeting at the church, so that's kind of, and of course we've got family doings, going on once in a while.
Yeah.
We love.
How was your children's schooling experience?
Their schooling experience, I think it was all pretty good. I know Margaret, Maureen. they had like they have class presidents. What do they have? What is it called?
The student council, or?
Student councilman, student councilman, and they did. I think they had class president and secretary and stuff. And they did things like that. Now, Ruth didn't do that too much because she was just more shy. She was, she was friendly, but she wasn't outgoing, And I don't think Rich was particularly shy. He probably wasn't too outgoing either, but he got involved with wrestling, in high school. So he was involved in sports. Good wrestler. I tell you, that just wear me out. I just couldn't hardly go and watch him. I just worked so hard to help him. It was hard to enjoy it because I wasn't wanting to do that.
Yeah. It's scary watching them do that.
Wow. What do you remember about the boom here in Craig?
Well, it didn't really change much of anything for us, I don't think. It sure grew. And it was kind of shocking, But I never really thought about it. Isn't that silly?
No, not at all. I mean, if it wasn't really directly involved.
No.
But you did notice an increase in people.
Oh yes, there definitely was an increase in people. And beginning, the outskirts of the town were in town now.
Right.
And so many of those meadows out there, of course, they're just covered with buildings now, but they used to be hay meadows. The Woodburys had a lot of hay meadow out there, and I cannot remember the one on the north side that he had great big hay meadows. But the town really grew to the west more so than to the east. Our little house in town was on the east side of town, and of course the farm was a little further east, about 3 houses. Norman Farm.
Did you notice any changes within your church community with all those people coming in? Did anything?
Yeah, we had quite a few new people. Yeah. Did notice that. And just as fine of people as you find anywhere.
What do you do for family recreation? Like when your kids were younger, what would you?
When I was a young girl, or is that what you said?
When you're raising your family.
Oh,
what would you do together as a family for recreation?
We didn't do much buying things for recreation. We rarely went to a show. I think we kind of just did our own thing. Pretty much. The kids, of course, they had their friends and things that they. When we were living out of town, it wasn't the easiest thing, however, for them to get to run to town. But I think that's good for kids. I don't think they need to be running the streets, and I just I was happy to have them out in the country. And they seemed to be too, because they just loved it. They loved the animals, their horses, and the dogs. And, they probably like pigs and cows too, but you don't get too attached.
One-way?
Yeah. Do you remember when the one-way street came in?
Yeah, sure do.
How did that affect things?
Well, sometimes it affected most people went the wrong way. But at first I didn't think I'd like it at all, because you're just used to going up and down the same street. But I guess after a while it wasn't too bad. I sure didn't think it was such a good idea. But I guess it probably. I think it was kind of hard, though, on some of the. We had a lot of filling stations. We used to have a little filling station here, a little filling station there. I think it was kind of hard on them because the eastbound traffic wasn't going by their stations.
Right.
And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with town, you think, well, there just aren't any stations in this town.
Right.
But,
so it did affect business a little bit as far
I'm
as...
sure it did, so.
Do you recall anything about the Cosgrove Hotel or the Signal Hill Restaurant?
Well, Signal Hill, I was seldom out there. I thought that it was more of a drinking place, although it had good food. I've been there. I don't mean to say that I haven't.
Right.
But the Cosgrove, I loved the Cosgrove. They had smorgasbord that you would not believe. I have never had smorgasbord like they would put on it. And I just couldn't hardly bear them to tear that. And that was a nice building. They had a heck of a time getting it down.
Right.
Yeah, that was a nice place to go if you had, if your club had something going on, you could meet and you could eat. I don't know yet why they did it. Somebody said it was about fall down, only couldn't get it down. Neither here nor there. Somebody wanted rid of them, I guess. Of course, they made good use of it there for a long time. There wasn't anything there, and now they've got one building there on part of it. And they had some porta potties there. You don't have to put that down. Thought that was tear down a hotel for a couple porta potties.
Yeah. Do you remember anything about this building changing that we're in now?
Well, yeah, it did, I guess, but I wasn't in it much.
Oh, okay.
Now I have to say I was here at some dances.
So you did come to some dances here. Okay. What was it like? Were there a lot of people here?
In town?
No,
or at the dance?
At the dance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say there were.
Did you ever play pickleball?
Pickleball? No.
We've heard a lot about it, so we just ask people if they remember it. We think it's interesting, yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
We're not sure either.
It's a cross between ping pong and tennis, or
tennis.
something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So they say.
Oh.
It sounds
well, maybe I knew about it and didn't know what it's called.
How about just downtown in general? How have you seen it change over the years?
Oh my. It's changed a lot. It hurt kind of when they put the two-way, the one-way, the two one-ways. I think it kind of hurt for a while, but I think that I guess it's doing pretty good. I don't know, but I felt kind of bad for some of the shopkeepers because that one way just kind of took half of the traffic off of where the businesses were.
Right.
If you're coming from California and you're heading that way and you come to this little Pittsburgh, and you get through and you think, well, there aren't any businesses here.
Yeah.
You know.
Any other questions?
No? Go ahead.
I guess to close everything off, what are your thoughts on Craig today and
What my thoughts
on Craig
on
today?
Craig
What
today?
keeps you here, I guess.
Oh, well, it's just my dear hometown. I like it. I really do, and I think I always have. Even when I moved in here from the country, and it's such a big old town. I soon loved it. Yeah, I think it's a pretty fair town. I think the people are friendly. And I think most people think they are, but there are some people that don't, and I don't know if it's because of their personality, how they react to people, or how people react to them, or something. And people can't help. You know, I think people just have different personalities, and some of them can feel hurt about something that I would probably laugh at. You know, and so. And I don't think they can help it. I had she was an aunt by marriage, but I thought, oh dear, why don't you laugh instead of feeling like somebody's? Because my mother, she could take a joke, and she could sure give them to. But I said that she was an aunt by marriage, but she was my aunt, and so it was a little bit hard for her to. And then I had another aunt too that bless her heart, she was really from the backwoods in Missouri, I believe. This has nothing to do with anything, but she was just a dear. She was a good person, and but had just such a. She was just so backwoods. I don't know how to even say it, but you know, she kind of came out of that, and that's kind of good because she wasn't a young bride. She was in her 20s now. I think that is young because she's not 18, but you know, she had time to mature a little bit. But she got over that pretty much. And I was born in Missouri. I can't say anything about Missourians, can I?
Any last thoughts or anything you want to add?
Oh, it's been fun to talk to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much.